All right, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to another video. You may have seen recently on social media, Hashtag United have announced the departure of Hashtag Harry, two names that have been synonymous as one for the last 4 years. I promised that we'd make a video about this because it is a big move for Hashtag, and I've got my brother Seb with me here, who obviously is ingrained in this club just as much as I am, knows all about that Harry, the tenure at Hashtag and why ultimately it's come to an end. So we're going to talk it through.
Let's do it.
So I guess the first question people will be asking is why? We did address it in a statement, but you can only go so far in a statement, right?
That's one of the things I like most about what we do is that, you know, and people talk about Hashtag in very nice ways a lot of the times, but the things I most like is that we have got this big club or online club and we've got a big following, but we're able to do, and we're willing to do, is probably the bigger way of putting it, the things that are more right. So when a club puts out this sort of statement, it's very polished, it's very PR friendly, it's gone through 25 rounds of approval, you never really find out the crux of it. Whereas we can put a statement out and then we can address it properly, openly, and discuss it and let everyone actually know what the real situation was, which is obviously very similar to the statement, but there's obviously a lot more context that's needed. Well, also,
we got some nice reactions from the statement already saying, like, thank you for giving us so much, you know, context in what's happened, which is it's already, it's a 4-page statement, really.
Yeah, it was a long one, yeah.
And Harry's obviously done his own. It's completely amicable. There's no issues there. It's the first thing to clear up. Often these statements, like...
covering over the cracks.
Covering over some fallout. This was something that, one question I saw come up a lot was, how long have you known about this? Because... they're like, why was it so sudden? In the nature of an announcement from a fan perspective is always going to be sudden. You're not going to be like teasing a departure like a month in advance. But we have known probably for the last month, I would say, this was going to happen. First of all, how did it happen? Why did it happen? I want to make one thing clear. There's very few comments, not many, sort of having a go at Harry and stuff, like for him wanting to leave. It didn't work like that, guys. I've got to make one thing clear. Harry at no point came to me and said, I want to leave, etc., etc. He didn't even come and say, I want more money at any point either. We were both very aware of the fact for the last few years that Harry could make more money elsewhere, okay? And so that's ultimately something that did feed into the decision, amongst other things, but it wasn't a case, first of all, I just want to say Harry wasn't like handling this badly. It's very amicable, and it's something that I actually think is mutually beneficial. And it seems weird to think that not having Harry at Hashtag would be beneficial for us, but we have to talk about the context, particularly financial, to explain why that is. So let's start at that. First of all, Seb particularly and myself have been working on an investment deal, a big investment deal to come into Hashtag for the last 2 years. We've been involved in a few different investment projects over the years. This one was one we've had a lot of time invested into. We were very close to getting it done. It was going to bring some money into Hashtag that was going to allow us to take things up a level, whether that would have mean signing more esports talent or giving, you know, much deserved wage increases to certain players, spending more money on content, whatever. That's what we'd have done. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, despite being moments away from literally
we had a signing date.
We had a signing date agreed. The pandemic meant that the company was going to invest in us. We're no longer in a position to do so. So that deal died, or is currently unavailable to us. That then meant we had to plan ahead for Hashtag. We thought we were going to have a load more money. The reality is we don't have that money to spend, and we have our own sustainable model, which has always been the case and will continue to be the case. We're not in trouble. Nothing's going anywhere. That's the whole point of sustainability, even with a pandemic.
Well, that's the thing is, with that potential investment money, we were planning on additional things to do, but we always planned whatever we would spend the money on would allow us to then return to sustainability in the future. It wasn't like you know, like some of the football investment deals, they just spend and outstrip themselves and put themselves under pressure in the future. It was a plan to just accelerate some of the ideas we're already working on for the future. But ultimately, we also have a plan that allows us to continue doing what we're doing now. We have had to make a few tweaks to that plan, as a lot of people have had to do, to content and also to sort of the back end business side of it. But yeah, I think you made a really good point where it is weirdly positive for both of us in different ways. In that, I think there's other things possibly around content and output. Maybe it's been a time with some of the stuff that Harry makes on his own channels. Some of the style of entertainment, should we say, that he goes for in his own content is a little bit different to what we are needing to put out ourselves as a business, and also as a brand that, you know, has so many staff for us. And we've got a lot of people to be responsible for, not just to entertain and bring our audience along for the story we make, but sponsors and our staff. We want to be doing the right things. And I think sometimes as an organisation with staff and volunteers, and now a women's football team and junior football teams, there's a certain responsibility we have to be able to hold up to. And sometimes that might be different from maybe Harry's style of content or his entertainment. So
also, Harry doesn't necessarily have the same level of responsibility. He shouldn't have to. He's a young lad who wants to go and do what he wants to do.
Different part of his life.
Going back to esports for a second. One of the questions we've had a lot is, are you going to get replacement for Harry? Okay, off the back of the announcement. And the honest answer is we're not. And the honest reason for that is we're going to have to be more streamlined. We've always had one of the biggest rosters in FIFA esports.
Absolutely. People don't think about that enough.
Some of these huge teams, we're talking like Man City, PSG, haven't had rosters as big as ours. And that's because we've always pushed the team dynamic, which we love. And we're still a big team because we've got the football lads and the esports lads and everyone coming together. But we're going to have a smaller esports roster. And the reason for that is, one, to be competitive still. We still want to be competitive, but also to not spend money unnecessarily. And that was the easiest way for us to save money and look at our roster. And Harry was someone who had opportunity to go elsewhere.
That was it, wasn't it?
Without going into too much detail on the contracts, Harry was kind of at the end of a contract phase with us. So it was either a case of like us making him a new offer, and he's getting really good offers from elsewhere. He's given us 4 years at the club, 4 amazing years, ups and downs, some difficult moments, I'm not going to lie, off camera or off competitive.
He addressed that as well in his own statement, didn't he? He said he's not always been the easiest to manage, and I think that comes with the territory of Harry. He's got a unique personality, and it's not always sweetness and rainbows. When people don't often understand just how much goes on behind the scenes when you're running an esports team, a football club, social media business, like all the things that are happening the whole time. So much goes on, and I think that's one of the things we've spoke about recently, is from here on in starting to maybe peel back those layers a bit and show a little bit more about what goes on under the hood, if people want to see it.
Well, that's what this video is sort of the start of him anyways. Ongoing throughout hashtags, football, esports, everything, journey, we want to share, because I actually think some of the most interesting things that happen in hashtag don't get caught on camera, which is crazy considering how much we film. And it's because we don't film the right bits. And we're going to keep filming the bits we've always filmed and give you guys that entertainment, but we're going to start filming the conversations that happen. We're making videos like this, explaining decisions, because for me, it's the reason I do it. The reason I do it is to do this as a job almost, where we run a club, a really modern, unique origin story, football/esports club. I don't even like saying football/esports club. We are a football club. And for me, being a football club in the 21st century means having some sort of esports.
Exactly.
So we are just a football club. And this is a situation where I want to take this opportunity to talk about where we fit within FIFA esports. Because that's for me the main story here. It's not actually about Harry, and we thank Harry for his service. Unbelievable, loyal servant. And I use the word loyal deliberately. He probably could have taken bigger contracts elsewhere over the last few years as well. He always wanted to stay at the club. If we could have competed financially and we could have kept him, he probably would have taken a pay cut again to stay at this club. But when I say pay cut, I mean not as much as he earns elsewhere. We weren't reducing his money. But it wasn't something we could offer.
In fact, his money, to be fair to us as well, his money had been increased over the last multiple contracts. He had to double his
well, I think the first 3 contracts we doubled his wages every single time. So we were growing his output, but only on our terms, not on the industry's terms. And the industry was growing quicker than we were financially, basically, in terms of what we could pay players.
But do you think that's also talking about our role within FIFA esports and talking about hashtag United being a sustainable club wherever we possibly can? Do you think that's an important thing to look at in how what is happening with the pace of FIFA esports compared to sustainability?
Well, 100%, because it's not like this sexy thing that's going to get a clickbait thumbnail. It's not something that a fan of FIFA esports will technically care about. They just want to see their guys win FIFA games and they don't look beyond it. But there'll be people out here that are interested in this. I think it's really important. So we're talking about esports as a growth industry. What does that mean? It means there's a lot of money coming into it, right? It means there's a lot of people investing, whether it be in teams, whether brands are sponsoring things, whatever. People like EA spending a lot of money on prize money. It's growth industry. Everything's getting bigger, including the wages people can get. But when you're actually a club, which from day one, our goal has been sustainability. I want hashtag United to be making more hashtag Harrys and memories for the next 40 years, not 4 years.
Exactly.
And when your goal is that, you don't have to look at the growth outside. You have to look, okay, what's it meaning for me? How much money are we bringing in from being a part of FIFA esports? And that's how you work out what you're spending. So got a little bit of a bone to pick, I guess, with in one person specifically, Kurt, the Maltese maestro, who made a video calling us tight once. I think he was basically alluding to the fact that we don't pay the most money in terms of wages. So I would definitely not call us tight, but I would say that we are clever with our expenditure. Economical. Let me tell you this. We are the best run FIFA esports organisation in the world. And there's a few people that could compete with that statement.
There's some other good ones.
Some other good ones as well. But people will say, oh, what about huge football clubs that are in esports? Or people will say something like Fnatic, and it's a great org, Fnatic, and I'm really happy for Harry.
Because they're much more than FIFA esports.
They are not necessarily the best FIFA org in the world, because do they make a return on their investments? I don't know. But I can tell you how much teams are paying in terms of wages. the sponsorships they're getting back for it aren't matching that.
No.
Okay, so we're looking at ourselves, and there are other teams. I'll shout out to certain teams like FutWiz, who I think are FIFA specific, like we are. They're not necessarily another esports that I know of, and they are kind of growing at a steady pace.
Always really good to work with as well, right?
We've had a couple of players come over from FutWiz, Tom Lees and Honey Badger the year before, and it's always been a pleasure working with Dan over there. So this is not to discredit any other teams. They have successful things outside of FIFA. I alluded to it in the statement, but like, you know, for example, Fnatic got a lot of money.
They don't have to run sustainably.
Not within FIFA, no.
Exactly.
And it's just EA, for example. Look at EA, the game of FIFA. Ultimate Team pays for loads of other EA games, the amount of money they make from Ultimate Team. So does NHL run sustainably? I don't know. Don't frankly care. My job is to make sure Hashtag does.
Exactly.
So within esports, we haven't got loads of money coming to a League of Legends division. We also haven't got a load of money coming in to our football team that we can move across like Man City or PSG do. We need to make it clean its own teeth.
Wash its own mouth.
Wash its own back.
Wash its own face.
Shave its own back.
Okay, either
which
all work,
do.
I think, sort of.
Basically, it has to pay for itself, or at least it has to show if we're investing and we're running the team at a loss, as we have done for several years sometimes. You can see where that's going to come back around, or else what's the point?
Yeah.
You know, if I wanted just to win things and spend all my own money on doing that, we'd have spent loads more money on our football team, because people already accuse us of buying the league when we spend the least money on football of everyone in our league.
Even in a non-league world, right? That's the interesting thing, is that with Hashtag United, we're lucky that we offer more than just to footballers or to players. It's more than just a contract or wages or anything like that, financial compensation. It is the togetherness, being part of a journey that stands for something, the opportunities, the experience. And that's why we've been able to recruit and retain some of the greatest players. Why we've been able to sign people like Aggie from PSG. Like, I'm sure he could have offered more money when he came to us at that deal, but he chose us for a reason. And that goes on on the football pitch as well. There's a lot more that comes with being part of Hashtag United. And I think it's important that we wouldn't want someone that was only signing for us for the money, definitely. I'm not saying that all other esports players are doing that, far, far from it. I think other organisations offer a lot of unique benefits as well, like particularly with Harriet, Fnatic, teaming up with Tex.
Yeah, exactly,
right?
Massive.
Best friends off the field, so I'm sure there'll be an incredible duo. But it's more to, we do not run Hashtag United the way other businesses would be run. Because if we did, we'd have made a lot of very different decisions. Literally, this is the passion of initially you wanting to start a football team and an esports organisation and trying to live this lifestyle for as long as physically possible. Not just, right, let's start a football team and try and win some tournaments and we'll spend some money and I'll write this money off after a few years and then we'll see what happens.
Well, you can see that.
Trying to lay the footprint forever.
How many teams, not just in esports, but in football as well, have come up since Hashtag were formed and gone since?
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
exactly.
Whether it's YouTube football teams, whether it's even huge esports orgs who've got loads of money, have come into FIFA and left it because they haven't been able to make it work.
F2. F2
did it, yeah, and that's one. They're not necessarily an existing esports org, but they came in, had the best guy signed to them. They lasted a year.
Won loads of tournaments, then left.
Yeah,
so it shows you.
It makes no sense.
Exactly.
You know, and it didn't work for them. I don't know the full reasons for that, but I can probably imagine why that happened. But that's just one example, and it happens in football. I don't really have anything against any other teams. I don't want anyone else to fail. I want us to be part of the narrative for as long as physically possible, and that means hopefully beyond my time at the club running it, maybe beyond my life. You know, that's what we're trying to achieve here, and that's why I asked the fans watching this. You know, if you call yourself a Hashtag fan, whether you're a casual fan who watches our video, you're someone that comes to games, football matches, or tunes into every live stream, whatever you are. Believe in the journey. Believe in the journey. Believe in the people that have been and will be at the core of this club, which is really me, Seb, and Alex. These are the three people. Obviously, we've had some great staff members come in, and we've had more recently, Cesares Pulaqueta has got involved, who's a great member of the board, if you like. But the three people that started it and continue to be part of it, me, you, and Alex, and our sensibilities haven't changed, our aims haven't changed. They've developed, they've matured, and I would say the club has a much better idea of what it is now than what we were when we started. And unfortunately, part of the success of surviving will mean saying goodbye to people at certain times. And I would have loved there to have been a world where Harry could have stayed and it could have worked for everyone. That world didn't exist. It had to happen. So the main thing I wanted to say is Harry's been a great servant to the club. It's a great move for him. Individually, he's going to make a lot more money there. That's just a fact. Like he's talked about in his statement, I've mentioned it, that me and Harry had almost like a brother-like relationship at times. You know, lived in this house for a long time. Taking my Hashtag hat off, I said to him, this is a good deal for you, mate. You should take it. I encouraged it. So if anyone out there thinks this was like done against our will, it was the opposite. It very much had our blessing. And probably I helped convince Harry to do it, to be honest.
That's very true.
Because it was in his interest and it was in Hashtag's interest to reduce our outgoings because we have to be clever.
It was the right time for both parties. And that doesn't mean it wasn't sad, because it was sad. And especially with everything we've done with hashtag from the beginning, Harry being right from the Spencer FC Game Academy days, you know, literally the equivalent of Scott Pollock of esports, if you like, and had a similar rise, if you like, to the top. It does feel like the end of an era in that regard, but we talk about chapter 1, chapter 2. We're just getting the book started, Spenny. We've got multiple volumes of this bad boy to get through. You can't be involved in it all. Hopefully goes for me and you as well, talking about longevity. So, as in beyond our lives, not about to quit anytime soon. But yeah, it is very sad. And the nostalgic amongst us will feel that way. But if you're going to support the club, you support the club. The badge first, and the rest follows afterwards. And I'll continue, as long as he's not playing against one of our boys, I'll continue to cheer on Harry in those esports events. 100%. But as soon as he's against the yellow and blue or the black and purple, then, you know, Harry, you're going down, mate. I don't care if it's penalties or not, son.
No, I echo that, and I encourage any of our viewers to do the same and keep supporting Harry and get behind him. His handles and stuff will change. They're still hashtag Harry right now, but one of those technicalities when you change stuff on Twitter and Insta, it kind of messes things up. So he's going to change it. I think it's just going to be Harry Hesketh. So we wish him all the best. So going back to the kind of financial situation and an esports question, I want to just give people an example so they know what we're talking about. Okay. So like, let's say Fulham got promoted to the Premier League, and as a result of getting in the Premier League, you get £100 million. I'm going to use average numbers here. They're not necessarily accurate. You get 100 million and you come in, okay? Fulham could spend 100 million trying to stay in the league and fail. That's been proven. That happened, you know? Fulham would be tight if they came in with 100 million and spent 1 million and went down, and their fans would be like, you didn't even try, right? That's not what we're doing. We are actually, in some cases, still losing. We
are going to the boundaries of our limit and sometimes just beyond, but with the way of bringing it back.
What we're not prepared to do is spend 500 million to try and stay in the Prem. No. It's not even about staying in the Prem. You've got to look at our results. Sure, we'd have liked to won a few more things last few years, but we have been there or thereabouts. I think we've probably got the best record in terms of qualification for events of any esports org. We had 3 players at FEWC a couple of years ago. This year, Tom would have at least 100% been there. I think Harry would have been there as well. That's probably my biggest regret, actually.
Yeah, it's such a shame.
Something that was completely out of our hands. The pandemic meant we didn't get that perfect opportunity for Harry to sign off.
That's a very important thing you talk about there, because obviously we talked a lot about Harry, talked a lot about esports. Tom's, if not the best, one of the best FIFA players in the world, who's now our #1 guy in our esports roster. We're in still a very, very strong position, even without an asset like Harry, which maybe is a tribute to just how big a force we are now in FIFA esports, if you like. And I think mainly that's because of with a few exceptions, a few hiccups along the way, almost every big event we have someone representing #United at. Hopefully that can continue to be the case. And with Tom, England representative, plays alongside Tex. Hopefully those two can keep playing together, though maybe Harry will have to have something to say about that. You never know. But we've still got a phenomenal asset there, and Shorey as well. So it's exciting times. I just looking forward to seeing how the boys get on when the new game comes out.
Yeah, I think we'll have more announcements about rosters and stuff coming up, but I think people need to understand, if you support hashtag, or even if you just keep aware of hashtag, there's going to be movement. There's going to be people that move on from time to time. This right here, right now, what's happening is a kind of, I would say, a new normal that we're establishing in terms of roster size. We're going to have to be more realistic going forward. The scene has had a lot of investment and interest in it, but does that necessarily come back to the teams? Not necessarily. You've got to be really lucky if you're going to actually make money off of a player doing really well in terms of competitions. Depends on the way you structure your contracts. Or we've got to have some really good sponsors, and we have some great sponsors, but we have a lot of stuff we have to spend that money on, including the wages of esports players. So I think people that are super involved in hashtag in terms of fan perspective will know a lot of this stuff already, but there'll be a lot of people that are hearing this for the first time. These guys are all fully paid employees, if you like, of hashtag United. And when you're an employer and a pandemic happens, you have to be careful. Even Fnatic had to make certain measures this year to compete with it, to handle the financial situation, but still they've got enough of a pot of money that they can go and make big acquisitions. It is a big acquisition for Fnatic. No way getting away from that. They've got a fantastic roster now with Tex and Harry. They're going to be a real force. I love the challenge. I can't wait to go up against them next year. There's going to be some great storylines. Harry's first time playing against us.
It's going to be big. It's going to be big.
I'm going to be presenting the North American Major literally starting tomorrow as we film this. Harry's in that. It will be his first event for Fnatic. There's a very good chance he wins it, which would be funny because even though it'd be a bit annoying for him to go win essentially a major event. It would be so typical Harry. It would also be a repetitive thing that he did for us, because his first event for us was technically the tournament we put on between professional clubs at the London Stadium that he did win.
Maybe we should qualify a few things for the uninitiated or someone who's maybe newer to following hashtag United. But like the amount of work that's gone in, particularly on your part, in in our own way, helping to develop the esports ecosystem there is now. Let's not forget that when you launched the Spencer FC Game Academy that Harry won, there was no FIFA esports. There were no big global series. There was the FIWC and a few other things. There wasn't the global series, the big money. There wasn't dozens and dozens of signed professional FIFA athletes. We were the first people to put together what now has evolved into the FECWC, the FIFA E-Club World Cup at West Ham. No, FECWC, the Club World Cup.
Sorry, yeah, of course.
So hashtag West Ham, Man City Sporting, Schalke, Wolfsburg, those 6 teams.
Yeah, we hosted the first Club World Cup.
We were part of the prize money.
It.
Yeah, exactly, at West Ham.
I put up the prize money.
That's what I mean.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, you personally?
Yeah, I personally put it up because the hashtag wasn't even got to that point at that time.
Yeah.
And yeah, we had to ask West Ham to host us. I bought my Xboxes and stuff in. You know, we used some Xbox, we used some West Ham monitors, some of my monitors.
Yep.
I think it was £2,000 prize. I put it up. Harry ended up getting it. I still had to pay him. Do you know what I mean?
But like, we've been lobbying and talking to the clubs like West Ham and Man City, the 2 early movers, both very, very, very in-depth chats with us about how they should get into FIFA esports. Kes Brown, the runner-up in the Game Academy, was Man City's first acquisition.
Yeah. So
we've been there from day dot. So it's not me, like, we haven't won the World Cup, so it's not, I want to maybe just qualify what we said earlier about how we're the best run or the thing. I think there's a legitimacy to that.
I'm talking about the business side.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not talking about as we haven't won the trophies, sure. We're not, we can't say we're the best it's difficult because we're talking about from an org perspective and not from a player perspective. True. Players move. Tex had his best year probably for F2. Yeah. Not for Fnatic. Even unsigned at one point, he was very good. People like MS Dasari. Rogue had an amazing year. When I think they had Enrasic, MS Dasari, and Goal Machine all not just competing for the FEWC, but getting deep into it. Yeah. So that was, but then they pulled out of FIFA. Yeah. This is what I'm saying. Yeah. They had the best possible year you could get. They had a world champion in MS Dasari, and they had 2 guys that got very close in the other 2. And they pulled out of FIFA. Mental. Rogue are a huge org, a successful org, but they're not us in FIFA because they're gone. So that's what I'm saying, qualifying it, sure. But some of the big orgs have done better things in other sports. Yep. We aren't in those sports. We can't say we're anything else but a FIFA esports team. And that's another question I did see, are we going to get into other esports? Guys, we've got to be realistic. Our job is maintaining what our main goals are, which is it's a modern day football fans club. That's what we are. We've toyed with things like Rocket League and Street Fighter as part of the Gfinity Elite series. Rocket League is a natural football kind of sidestep, but we're not going to be making that move anytime soon. Honestly, there's not the money in it. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. We can't afford to go into new ventures that aren't going to bring anything back in.
Yeah, you have to do what, in football terms is rolling the dice. Go and sign a load of players and hope they do well. But then equally, we don't know of the model for other esports and how that would get a return.
Yeah, we're going to get any sizable sponsorships as a result of going into Rocket League.
No.
So we're going to have to put all our faith. This is too much information, but we do want to start, opening the door a little bit. We'd have to put, to make House have any chance of getting into Rocket League, this is what would have to happen. This Rocket League is nothing against them. This is any esport. Sure. Fortnite, for example, the numbers you can put an extra 0 on the end. You'd have to get the best players, give you a chance of winning. You have to put them on contracts, right? Sometimes multiple year contracts. Huge financial risk for the club, okay? So you've done that. Now, if you're not going to get big sponsorships in, because maybe there isn't that demand for example, Rocket League, maybe there would be in another game like Fortnite, but we've got no guarantee of it, and it's not our area. We don't know about Fortnite. I'm not a expert on any other esports. No. I would say I'm an expert on FIFA, but I'm not on the other things. So you're taking a huge financial risk with no guaranteed sponsorship. So then what have you got to do to make it financially viable, which is the whole point of what we do? We're not here to make profit. We're here to be financially sustainable and to allow us to survive. So how do we at least get the money we're spending back? We have to then gamble on taking a load of prize money. I don't like taking high prize money percentages. I've heard some teams take up to 50% of people's winnings. Crazy. I've got no interest in that. But to have any potential of getting anything back from a new esport, we'd have to have a high percentage of prize money. And even then, if they win, they have to win. If they don't win, you just down loads of money. Yeah. And there are teams out there that don't take any percentage of winnings. There are teams out there that take loads of winnings.
So here's a question for you then. Do you think that now is the opportunity for the powers that be, the EAs, the FIFAs, whoever, and the big orgs to get together and to try and create a sustainable footprint for all of us now, which maybe is almost too late to bring back into the real world of football now with salary caps and things like that?
There's definitely an opportunity, and it's something that I've talked about before, and I always say to clubs that let's do it the right way. Just because everyone else is trying to tap up players and whatnot, let's have the conversations. If we're signing someone or someone's leaving, I'll talk to the team, we'll do it the right way. We don't go to the players or anything like that. There's no external pressure on anyone to do that properly. It's a wild, wild west still. And to be honest, if you're looking at it from an EA perspective, there's nothing in it for them to get this designed to work. I'm not saying they're not going to do it. I'm saying is they want the big numbers. They want to say PSG have come in and put, you know, a player on 100 grand a week or something one day, because it makes the sport look bigger. And they want it. So it's all about numbers and excitement. And esports in general, you could say a lot of the numbers are made up.
Yeah, there's a lot of inflation going on, but the thing is, the viewerships are growing consistently. So I do believe that. I think we're in a unique position in FIFA esports. Like, one of the reasons we were able to secure the new partnership we did with LucasAid is that we're a crossover between real football and esports. They're very interested in, obviously, an active brand, but they've also got an interest in looking at the future development of esports. And because we're a hybrid, that's a nice place for them to be. Equally, FIFA esports doesn't have the big numbers of League of Legends or whatever else, right? But if someone wants to go after esports and the big numbers of those other genres, they've then got to get comfortable with them working in worlds where people are running around blowing each other up. Right, which is a very different brand safe. So it's like an interesting one. I think FIFA esports hasn't got the numbers of those other esports as such, but it is it's like a gateway into esports, if you like, for a brand. And I think that's why that's one of the things that we need to double down on. We do double down on it, don't we?
We're going to end the video there, guys. Let us know in the comments if you've got more questions. But to summarise, Harry's moved on. He moves on with our best wishes. We look forward to seeing him soon. I'm going to literally be presenting an event he's in like in the next 24 hours. So it's all good. There's no bad blood. He's going to have a great time at Fnatic. It's a great move for him individually.
Shout out to them on their announcement video. It was really cool.
Yeah, it was a cool video. Really, and shout out to Kojo at Fnatic for being a good lad behind the scenes and helping us handle that sensitively and everything. And hashtag are still good. We're fine. We've got the exact same people still running everything behind the scenes, and you're going to see more behind the scenes now as a result of a little bit of a change in content strategy. So let us know what you'd like to see more of that goes on at hashtag.
If you could know one thing under the hood, or as you say, peeling back the wallpaper. If there's one thing about hashtag you've always wondered about, let us know. We'll reveal all.
Drop a like on the video if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe for more. Until next time, and this goes to Harry as well, don't forget to hashtag it.